Hey, what's up, YouTube? Welcome to. No, it's not Play Painting Live. It's not. It's not. We're not painting. So it's not Play Painting Live. It's just sort of, I can't paint tonight. And so I'm going to turn on the camera for a very short period of time. And I mean it, guys, very short period of time. I'm going to try to get some rest here before I finish packing tonight and get ready for Kingdom Con tomorrow. Oh my gosh, I just reminded myself I need to print my tickets for Kingdom Con because that's going to be a thing. So pretty awesome. Now, I had planned originally to be painting up some of the season 2 captains. In particular, I was hoping to paint Hammer, so that because I was believing my quote unquote pre-order from Steamforged Games would be here tonight, so that I could then build and paint Hammer and have him ready to go for the weekend of gaming that I'm about to partake of at Kingdom Con in San Diego. Oh man, Kingdom Con in San Diego. Sorry about that. You know, it's a raw show. But unfortunately, it is still in the mail. In fact, it may be here tomorrow. So I'm not sure if I'm going to hang around or if I'm going to head down to San Diego early or not. I may end up actually hanging around and seeing if it does show up. But that doesn't really change anything for me ultimately, because even my speed painting skills would not be able to get the model assembled and painted and ready by the time I want to get down there to San Diego and start playing some games. So anywho, so tonight is we're pretty much dead in the water. I mean, I don't have anything that I want to paint because I'd kind of been waiting for those captains to show up, but that's okay. It's okay. I mean, I could, like, if you want to be literal here, there's some stuff I could be painting. Like I could paint Captain R here. Like I could totally paint him, but I don't know. Not feeling it tonight. Could also paint this guy. This is Gregor from Wrath of Kings. That's kind of a cool model. I could paint that, but I can't. I'm not going to paint tonight. I'm gonna do something which I believe to be wise. Is I'm going to turn on the camera for a little bit. We're going to talk for a little bit, and then really I'm going to cut it short and go to bed because I need my rest. It's going to be a very long weekend. It's going to be a very fun weekend. But I'll be honest with you, I'm fighting a little bit of a bug. My son went to party, and for those of you parents out there know exactly how that goes. You get a bunch of kids together, and it's basically a breeding ground for germs, bad bugs, and all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of through the household here, and we're fighting it off as best we can. But I don't know, maybe the sake is going to have to save me. So that's what I'm dealing with. I'm in the middle of packing stuff. Hey, what's up, David Luff and David O'Connell? Welcome to the Not Painting feed. It's been pretty bad last few feeds, right? I mean, I didn't paint anything last week. We just talked Guild Ball. And this week, it's just going to be a very short kind of rant over Game of Thrones. So you've been warned. If you watch Game of Thrones and or read the books, you've been warned for spoilers. If you're not totally caught up with the show, I don't recommend you proceed any further with this show because we're going to talk about it. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. I'm gonna and again, this is just for fun. I need to do this and get it off my chest, and then I can go to sleep. So yeah, okay, David O'Connell, you're behind. So sorry if you're behind, but yeah, just fair warning. I am going to talk spoilers of of episode 1. And if you're a big fan of the show, just take this in jest. This is just me talking trash over a show that admittedly I do enjoy watching. But we're going to talk about season 6, episode 1. And then also, before we get into that, here's some stuff that I'm getting, so this is the last part of this stuff I'm getting ready for Kingdom Con, and this is stuff that you absolutely need to have for Kingdom Con. Bye, David. Thanks for tuning in. So this is like, so I'm gonna have this like thermos thing, because this is a big, tall thermos. You can't even, I might have to do this to show you. So it's a big, tall thermos thing that I need. That's gonna be super important over the weekend, because you need water for one, but I'm not gonna have water in mine, obviously, because it's Kingdom Con. I'm gonna have some of my favorite brands of sake in here. So I'm gonna fill this with, I haven't decided yet. I usually have Bride of the Fox, but I've been having that so often, I may go with one of my other favorite brands. I may go with Moo or something like that. I'm going to show you guys this because this is kind of cool. One of the coolest things, you know, I could do beer, but there's going to be a lot of beer at Kingdom Con. So there's going to be a lot of people that have beer. I know some of my friends are showing up with like coolers full of beer, but nobody brings sake. And sake is really my drink. So I'm going to bring couple of bottles of my favorite sake and share a few drinks with people. But what I like about this is, you know, so you've got this little, this is, you know, it's designed for drinking, obviously, and you've got a little cool little squeeze the trigger here, and you know, then you can drink or pour it out, and then it's got this neat lid on it. Then you've got some other functionality that I don't even know. It's like high-tech stuff. You can also, you know, you can also put this on your key ring, which I may end up doing, just so, you know, or hooking it to like a belt or something like that, or even hooking it to my backpack. I may do that. There's another part here. You're supposed to be able to put like some crazy like plastic key holder thing, but I don't care about that. It's just want to have something that can carry my my drink and be good with that. So I got that ready. The other thing I'm getting ready is this here. This is my buddy the owl. Okay, so I have some drinking tech for conventions, and the owl is one of my favorite ones. I have that flintlock pistol that is a shot glass that I call the Fox, and this is the owl. So the owl is basically just your standard stainless folding cup. So here's the cup here. It takes a while. These are really cool, but it takes a while to clean it totally. So I had to go through and give it a nice deep clean tonight, because it's going to be filled with sake the entire weekend, or at least as long as I'm there, and I run out of sake. I don't want to spend too much money on sake, but I may have to, because, you know, and I like to drink with my friends there at Kingdom Con. So there's this, and you know, the whole thing collapses down, and you can carry that with. So I had to get my drinking. Everything is pretty much packed except I've got my bag of clothes, and then I've got my main bag here, which this laptop will go in, as well as my Guild Ball rules and price support and minis and that kind of stuff. Okay, so that was a lot of talking and not a whole lot of talking about Game of Thrones. So it is, I'm going to keep this pretty short. We're going to talk about Game of Thrones. I know I've been wasting a bunch of the early minutes here. So if you're tuning into this specifically for that, first off, I don't know why you would do that. Secondly, yeah, we're going to hop into it. I'm not going to take very long. There are so many like review videos, reaction videos, and all that stuff online, and I feel, it kind of bothers me to do a Game of Thrones thing on this feed. Now I did that before. I did a game, I think last year, maybe even the year before. I don't remember. And a few of the people watching it really liked it, just because I was so like, I was so bitter about the whole thing. So take that for, and let me point out here before we start, and I give you the spoiler warning, which I already did. But let me point out, I do enjoy watching the show. I really do. I do enjoy watching the show. I haven't read the books. And I think some people tell me that's a good thing because, I probably would be even more upset about the show had I read the books. But this is all just for good fun and entertainment. Okay. Ultimately, I like the show. If you like the show, um, great. And if you're offended by what I say here as I rant about Game of Thrones, right? If 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 you agree with me, then that's cool too. Hopefully, maybe that tells me that I'm not entirely crazy here. Okay, so yeah, so Game of Thrones. I complain about the show, and I really I like watching it. My wife loves Game of Thrones. My wife loves Game of Thrones, and when the show first came on, the first season, and my wife and I have been watching it, religiously since it started on HBO. And I think initially I was the bigger fan going in, and probably around season 3, season 4, we swapped places. She became the bigger fan. I became kind of disenchanted with the whole thing. Okay. I mean, it's not that it's a bad universe. It's not that it's a bad premise for a story. It just got to a point where I don't know. I felt disenchanted with it. I felt demystified. And probably, and what I like to say is post Kool-Aid. I felt post Kool-Aid on all this stuff. So, I felt like, okay, Game of Thrones it was good, but it's getting to the point, and I feel that it's gotten to the point where the hype has outpaced the merit of the show. Okay, so once again, I do like the show, but I'm not. I wouldn't consider myself a like fanboy at this point. I would consider. I would say I'm almost kind of like a disgruntled viewer. So take that for what it is. It's nerds get mad about stuff, especially after they really, really get excited about it. Then they get mad about it. But the way I see Game of Thrones is the way I see a lot of fandoms in fantasy sci-fi, and that is that when these things first come out, you have a core group of people, and because I have miniatures, I'm going to represent these with miniatures, right? Just because why not? We're not painting. You guys need to look at something. So when something comes out, if it's a book, a movie, comic book, whatever, right? It comes out, and this is the wrong model, and you have your core fans, your early adopters, the people that discover something early on and they like it, right? And it's like, oh yeah, this is Game of Thrones is my thing and I really like it. And they like Game of Thrones, and the general public doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. They're considered nerds, they're considered outcasts, whatever, right? Then, with the right amount of exposure and or the right amount of promotion, uh, depending on the mechanism by which this stuff gains visibility, then you may have some other people joining in, and you've got and they're a little bit closer to the epicenter of the thing. Let's call it. Let's use this like silver thing here as the epicenter, right? The source of the fandom. So if this were like Game of Thrones, if this were like the George R.R. Martin fiction, then you've got like your early adopter fan here who's very close to it. Then you've got another group of fans like fairly close to it, but and this crowd is starting to form. So you're starting to get more and more people liking something, and the more and more people that like something, obviously they reach out and they start pulling other people in. And then so you've got this layer here, like you've got the early adopters, then you've got these guys, then you've got then other people start to pour in, right? And these people they're playing catch up. They're and unfortunately, like elitism will say, okay, these are the tourists, these are the posers, yada yada yada, right? And they start filling up the outer ring around this source. And what happens is the commercial success isn't here with this guy. It's climbing over his back, but it's actually all out here, right? All these people that are like, Game of Thrones, I love it, right? And they hopped in. That's where the commercial success is. So pleasing this person is no longer nearly as important and not nearly as lucrative as pleasing these people. And so what happens is these people have a voice, and they have an opinion on what this should be, and this guy has an opinion on what this should be. I know there's a lot of Eldorado, yeah, and these aren't the same things. These guys are more, they want this to behave more like every other thing that they like, and this person doesn't, because these people came to this mainly because it was different, mainly because it had its own identity, and it was, it wasn't afraid to be itself, right? These people out here, they now want it to contain a popular public message or a political message, or they want it to say positive things, or they want it to speak to a specific demographic of people. They suddenly have all these other things here that they want to take care of, whereas these guys, the early adopters, they just want it to stay true to what it was, and they want to stay on the journey of what this thing really is. Hey, what's up, Adam? I'm doing a diagram here of fandoms and how it pertains to Game of Thrones, right? So anyways, these guys, the creators of this, understand that the money is out here with these guys. And so what they'll do, and they also understand that there's often some problems between these guys and these guys. Like the guys closer to it, the early adopters, they could end up being snobs to these people, they could end up being elitist to these people, and then these people could look at those early adopters and they could end up being kind of bullies to them, and kind of like browbeating. Oh, you guys are the ones in your mother's basement. You guys are the ones that are, you guys have these weird autistic feelings towards everybody, and you don't know how to behave socially. So you've got this tension here. Then you've got these guys who are paying attention to where they're making their money, and suddenly they're gonna start to do this. They're gonna start to drift. They're gonna start to drift and get closer. They're gonna draw a little closer to this crowd of people, right? And that's going to piss off these guys, because they're like, hey, why are you changing? What's going on? We like you. What's going on? And it's going to draw the other people around. These people are suddenly, they find themselves moving towards the outside of where this is heading. And these people are heading towards are becoming closer to the material now. The material is changing. The people are changing around it. And this is the process of quote unquote selling out, right? This is what happens. Like all your favorite shit that you really liked when it was just you is changing because of a number of different things, not the least of which is economic viability. And so at that point, it jumps the shark. These people become disenfranchised. It's no longer the parts of it that were appealing to them are no longer there, and they may move on and they may adopt something new. And then, in my opinion, what happens here is once it becomes adopted at this state, where you've got this big in group and you've got a small out group, and those guys basically F off. Now you have this political, I'm sorry, not political, you have this populist free fall that happens, whereas suddenly this thing now can do no wrong because it's got so much of a hype train behind it that it's just going to keep adding fans, and people are going to come over and enjoy it and not even know why. They just, I don't know, there's so many people, I like it too. And that's what's going to happen with this. And you can say that about any fandom, any type of popular fandom. That's kind of the evolution. That's kind of where it goes. And if you're, unfortunately, if you're a content creator, if you're a creative person, that's kind of pay dirt, because you can, at this point, when you get to this stage, you can keep putting out crappy product and more people will lap that shit up. Like you can, for miniature gamers, you can increase prices every year and people will lap it up. You can make a new codex every year and people will lap it up. You can treat your fan base, your customer base, like absolute garbage. Once you get to this point, they will pick it up and lap it up, and nobody is allowed to criticize it, right? If these guys come back, can you imagine these guys coming back and say, hey, you know what? That's not what it used to be. It's not nearly as good. We don't like it. The amount of hate they're going to get from these guys who have now kind of adopted a cult type personality is ridiculous. Like it's uncalled for. And these guys, the guys who essentially who were the original fans, the early adopters and so forth, they, if you look at their lifespan with the fandom, like going all the way back to the very beginning of this whole really weird miniature diagram, they were the ones that were ridiculed in the first place for liking a thing. They were the ones that were mocked for liking it. And now that it's hit this populist freefall, they're still the ones being made fun of for criticizing it. So that's your deep, deep thought for the night. Man, I really gotta rest. This is some bullshit. But anyway, I don't know. Give it some thought. I don't know. That's kind of how I see it. That is kind of how I see it. And it sounds like I'm very much on the side of this person. But maybe, I mean, I identify with that person. I think a lot of us do. I think a lot of us people that do feel like we're on the fringe of stuff, the people that do feel like we're, hey, a little bit off center, that we're a little bit different than the people around us. We feel like this guy a lot. Like we adopted something, we liked something, and we brought it to other people, and then we ended up like this. We were mocked for liking it to begin with, and now we're mocked for questioning it, questioning where it's gone and what it's become. So anyways, that's my diagram. So with that, we'll get into Game of Thrones Season 6, Episode 1. I feel like Game of Thrones has hit this point. I feel like Game of Thrones, and it hit that point right around, I want to say, late Season 3, Season 4. It started to move away that way. And now it's firmly on this side. And I'm going to tell you right now, it feels like no matter what these guys do, that there's just going to be a cult-like contingent of people that are never going to earnestly question or check the integrity of the show and its writing. And it's a shame because I feel that's totally, I feel it's totally valid for fans to do that. I feel it's totally acceptable for fans of a thing, for followers of a thing, to call it into question. Just because you hit this free fall here, and this culture of if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. I think that's wrong. I think it's deeply wrong. I think that's what leads to things going unchecked and poor ideas and poor designs and poor creations just continuing to thrive and live in this free fall. It's the reason why, it's so easy for people to call pop music trash and popular culture trash, but they don't look at this process and they don't really understand, hey, you're part of the problem. You're part of what causes this. So I feel like Game of Thrones went that way, and Season 6 is no exception. In fact, I would say Season 6 is gotten so bad that they are now they're now at that point where they can charge more for 10 Space Marines. They're at that point where they can rewrite codexes on a whim. They're at that point where they can treat their fan base and their customer base like shit, because these people will defend them. These people here will defend it. And tonight we're out here. Tonight we're the ones that are going to call a little bullshit on this. So Season 6. Season 6 opens up, and the reason why I'm so flipped out about this is because I watched the show with fairly low expectations, and I still kind of have fairly low expectations. And it seems really weird to hear me say, hey, I like watching the show. I do like watching the show, but it's almost like I almost loathe liking the show. You know, it's a lot like how I felt probably the last 7-8 years when I was playing GW. Is like, okay, I still like it, but I hate that I still like it. You know, and that's my problem, and I don't like that. But anyway, so we start off with you know, the dead Jon Snow, and you know, and GoT is crying, whatever. That gets Davos's attention, and Davos runs out there, finds his body conveniently left in the snow after he was murdered last season, and brings him inside. And he brings him inside with Ed and a handful of the Night's Watch, all of which coincidentally all support Jon Snow. And right there is where things just start to get weird. I mean, I start to question that immediately. Like, if you murdered your Lord Commander, why would you leave his body out there? Especially if there's any inkling of you know, whites of the body becoming a white and getting back up. I mean, that's kind of what these guys are fighting, right? And they've been burning bodies for the last 3 seasons. You know, they burned everyone's body. They burned they burned Mance Rayder. They burned Master Aemon. They burned the bodies of everybody who died in the wall, which was, by the way, still my favorite moment of the entire series was watching that episode, because finally, like, I don't know, it felt like I was watching something good when I was watching that. But anyway, so let's just leave his body out there, right? Then these guys, these people who are all accidentally are super, super diehard devoted to Jon Snow, pull him into a room, and instead of trying to escape, they decide that they're going to hole up. Which, again, that's really weird, because you've got they actually end up sending for Ghost, the direwolf. So it's like, hey, Ed, go get Ghost. He's like, okay. So he goes back out, gets Ghost, comes back, and nobody else loyal to Alistair Thorne and that side is up or awake at this time, right? They stabbed a dude, they went to sleep. Everyone's like, they all knocked off. It was super tired, right? So he goes and gets Ghost, and then he comes back, and it's like, oh, well, who else is on side? Oh, and the Red Lady, and oh, she comes by, and she's like super sad. Can't believe this has happened, yada yada. And then she just fucks off basically right after that, and you're like, what the hell is going on? That was weird. Okay, she just kind of like feels his hand a little bit, and then there's a scene at the end, which we'll get into. That didn't make sense either. Then they send Ed out again to go get the wildlings. Now at this point, I'm starting to think this is a really, really sloppy premise. Okay, because I think I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to set up this scene where, here, look, I have like, it's cool having miniatures and shit. You can like describe all of this and lay it out in a neat little schematic for people, right? They're trying to set this up. Well, if you imagine this is the door to their room, right? And then, and let's say this guy here is Alistair Thorne, right? And this guy here is Sir Davos, and then you've got you know, dead Jon Snow over here. They're trying to set up this whole like this whole confrontation here, where these people are defending essentially the body of Jon Snow against these people who want to come in and kill everybody. And that doesn't quite make sense. Like, okay, I get that these people were all loyal to Jon Snow, but if resurrection isn't being discussed or on the table, and they discovered his body, then there's no reason to hang out and be in this room, right? They could have taken, if they were that concerned about the body, they could have taken Jon Snow with them. The numerous times that they sent Ed out, because apparently Ed can just roll wherever the hell he wants. Now, if you remember, when you have to leave the wall, like somebody has to like open the gate so they can ride off, right? If they're heading north. If they're heading south, though, I guess it's much easier. I mean, just turn around and head south and pick up some wildlings or whatever. But even in that case, it's much easier for people to get out of this situation rather than, hey man, oh, Jon Snow's dead. Oh yeah, super bad. Hey, guess what? Let's just fight here to the death. You know, I don't know. I don't know. I think logic would prevail and be like, okay, let's get him out of here. Let's pull all the people that are loyal to Jon Snow. Let's get Ghost out of here, and let's ride south and let's group up with the wildlings instead of sending one guy out and then being like, oh yeah, we're totally going to fight you on the other side of this wall. That does not make sense. There's no lie. I don't get it. And then the fact that like the red lady came by and she's like, oh, I'm super bummed out about this, and then I'm going to go and do weird things and climb into bed. Also really weird. So it seems, I guess what I'm getting at is it seems like sloppy writing. They wanted this to happen. There's not a lot of logic tied into how they set up the circumstances around it. There's a lot of holes, a lot of questions there. So anyway, we'll leave that at that. So Jon Snow is dead, and then you have that thing. Yeah, sure, cool. Then let's move to the next scene where you've got Theon and Sansa, who have freshly escaped from Winterfell. And here's our Sansa. No, this is a redhead. That guy's a little too buff to be Theon. Let's use this guy. All right. And so they're escaping from Winterfell. They just jumped off of the giant wall into a snowbank that I don't think everybody saw. I certainly didn't see it. I was, a lot of people were wondering, hey, are they dead or whatever? Not only are they not dead, they're in perfect health. Like there isn't a single broken bone or anything like that. Nobody's limping or hobbling. They're just running around in the forest, and they're running from a bunch of the Bolton's men, right? Then they decide to cross a river to get the dogs off of their trail, essentially. So they jump into a frozen river with their clothes on. Always a smart idea. And then get to the other side where they become dry for no reason. They're just dry all of a sudden, right? And so they're kind of huddled up there. Then the Bolton men show up with their dogs. I don't have. Well, here we go. Here's a dog. See, it's so cool to have miniatures stand by. So we got a dog here, and and then Sansa's like, she's like gonna hide under this tree thing. She's gonna hide like under a tree, right? With Sansa here, and there's gonna be like Bolton men, and Theon's like gonna be trying to stop them, and then you've got then suddenly Brienne and Pod show up. Brienne and Podrick show up and just start kicking ass, right? And they fight all these people. This whole melee breaks out, yada yada. Brienne fights, and that's actually pretty cool. I like the fight scene. I like that. I like watching Brienne fight because it's like there's such a it's almost like a reckless passion in it, and I think it's pretty awesome to watch. Also, I'm the biggest fan of Podrick. He's like one of my favorite characters in the entire show. I gotta say, I'm from House of Pain, man. I love Podrick. He's so rad. He gets the freebies from the hookers, if you recall, and he's just a great character. So all this fighting occurs, yada yada. Then suddenly, there's no dogs, right? So as soon as the fighting starts, no dogs are killed. No dogs are harmed or are killed in the incident. Only guys on horses and guys on foot are killed. That was weird. First off, how did the dogs get across the river if that was the whole point of crossing the river? And if that wasn't the whole point of crossing the river and they were dry, they showed them dry on the other side, why even show the river? I don't understand the need to do that. Okay, maybe I'm picking on shit. I don't know, whatever. I have questions. I was watching the show and I got questions. So then the whole thing happens, and then, there's that moment like, I pledged myself to you, Sansa. Again, well, let's do it with the miniatures. You got to do it with the miniatures because it's like, right, and here's Sansa like, here, I pledged myself to you. Here's Brienne. I pledged myself to you, and here she's pointing at her. And then you got Podrick here that's like, here's how you correcting Sansa on some of the oath things. And this was like a super, super fanboy moment. It's like, oh, we totally wanted these characters to get together. And finally, Brienne did a thing. Brienne has done 2 things so far. She went like 2.5 seasons of accomplishing 0 things that she meant to accomplish. She's up to 2 now. That's good. She did 2 things. She killed Stannis, and then and now she's serving Sansa. So she's protecting Sansa now. And this is going to be everybody's favorite story. Sansa rising to power and rallying the North. I think that's awesome. I think it's cool. Adam was going to say North Side. He likes that too. I think the concept is cool as long as they don't fanboy too hard on it, because it's almost like I watched somebody else who just summarized this really well by saying this looks like it's like watching fan fiction at this point. The way things conveniently work out in this, especially this scene, which was everybody's favorite scene of the night, that everything works out and you have this full fanboy moment. And I was like, okay, yeah, it's good. I'm excited. They're trying to build that. This is definitely Sansa's arc. We're hoping is going to be the big upswing arc of the season, because everything else is going to be fairly depressing elsewise. So there's that, right? Okay, let's move on to the next scene. Then you got, Jaime and Cersei. See, I get the miniatures, and Jaime and Cersei, and they're bringing Myrcella's dead body. Oh no! And then they have their little scene. First off, fantastic acting, obviously, by Lena Headey. I think she's amazing. She's an incredible actress. She makes it so that we hate and fear and sort of respect Cersei for everything she is, because she's crazy. But just, Lena Headey being able to run through that gamut of emotions, and you just kind of see it on her face as Jaime's pulling up, is really cool. Then they get into the whole prophecy thing. Again, just kind of building the premise for what's going to happen with the Lannisters this season, and so forth. I don't know. And this is one of the few scenes I didn't have any giant glaring issues with. That's just kind of what I expected that scene. I didn't expect her to be totally okay with Jaime coming back and like, here's our dead daughter. I thought there'd be at least some, some frustration or some anger directed in his direction. But now she's just broken. She's just broke. But because I think this is going to leave her in a really cool place where she's just busted. She's got one child left to guard. She's already been through the ringer with the whatever it's called, the High Sparrow, and that whole religious group. So it'll be cool to see her and obviously Robert Strong murder or bring violence to people this season. Was totally okay with this scene. We're good to go. I totally skipped over the Ramsay Roose scene. That was a good scene. He was like, he kind of did a mournful little speech for dead Miranda there, and then everybody kind of got off on yeah, she's good meat, throw her to the dogs instead of burning her or burying her. Okay, cool. I kind of get that. Sure, that's fine. And then Roose kind of basically saying, hey, if you can't get Sansa back, we're gonna disown you. Okay, or he's gonna disinherit him. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Totally expected all this stuff to happen. Cool. So really no complaint there. No complaint with this scene. So not bad, right? So in my opinion, so far, 2 really shitty, poorly thought out scenes and 2 okay but boring scenes, right? Like that's kind of how I expected those scenes to go. They might be slightly different, but overall, that's kind of what I expected. So now, I don't even want to talk about it. It would be like a whole, this is, I need to go to bed, you guys, but Dorne, just the Dorne scene. The Dorne scenes are just so bad. They're so bad. The Dorne scenes are some of the dumbest crap I think I've ever seen on any series. Not just it, and that stands out for Game of Thrones because there's a lot to like about Game of Thrones, but when you get to Dorne, it's just been a clusterfuck since the beginning. Since they they tried to cover Dorne. And the really upsetting part about this is that, when you met Oberyn Martell and Ilaria, the first season that they showed up in King's Landing, you're like, man, these are two super, super, super cool characters from Dorne. Adventurous, and they're kind of uninhibited, and they're quick-witted, and they're sharp-tongued, and they're so cool. Then as soon as you like them, obviously George R. R. Martin does his thing. He makes sure Oberyn gets his head popped, which is cool. And you're like, okay, yeah, that was a little heartbreaking. I loved the character. But now you get to go to Dorne. You get to see where this really, really awesome character is from. And you get this, and there's a little bit of it last season, as awful as Dorne was last season with the Sand Snakes, which, oh my God, I just, like, who the hell is writing this crap? Have they never met an actual tough woman in their life? Have they not? Have they never seen true strength in uh, in women, in real women, not like caricature women? Because that's how the Sand Snakes came off. They came off as caricatures. They're really flat. The acting is just awful, and the writing appears to be even worse. And you had Doran Martell, which are like, okay, this guy seems kind of interesting. He's supposed to be like the master planner. He's supposed to be this really calm and wise, yet scheming and sort of brilliant character. And then you've got Ario Hota. Well, here's them. Sure, why not? And you got Ario Hota, who's supposed to be one of the best fighters in all of Westeros. And you only get to see even the tip of the iceberg last season, when he kind of puts his glaive at the neck of Jaime Lannister and says, hey, if you were whole, would have been a good fight, right? Well, guess what? We don't get to see that at all. We don't even get anything close. Now, granted, after last season, I would have been happy that they never, ever, ever came back to Dorne again, right? And I'm hoping that this scene here is basically to say, we're never, ever, ever going. We're sorry. We don't ever want to show you guys that garbage again, because it was awful, right? So you basically had, here's where the logical fallacies just go out the window, right? Like, we left common sense way, way back in the rearview mirror. Like, there's no coming back from it, right? So it's like, okay, so Ilaria Sand here, and then you've got, I forget the name of the kids, Tiny. I don't even care what their names are, whatever. Essentially, it's like, oh yeah, I'm the ruler of Dorne, and I'm the tough bodyguard, and they're like, yoink, they're like, zink, zink, basically 2 backstabs, and they're both dead. And then they magically cut to this scene where the kid Trystane is on a boat, and he's on a boat outside of King's Landing, because that makes sense. Because when Myrcella died, apparently, there was no discussion, there was no exchange with Jaime and Trystane. Even if you believe they were on separate boats, if they were in the same boat, it makes even less sense what went down. Suddenly in the boat, and they're like, hey, yeah, hey, we're here to kill you. And then there's this whole stupid fanboy scene that goes on, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm going to fight the one with the whip, which makes sense, because any idiot that's trying to fight with a whip in close quarters like that is going to lose, okay? You're going to lose. It's the stupidest crap to show up and try to, like, beat somebody down with. Like having a whip in essentially what is a closet. That's just not going to work, okay? All right, I'll fight you with this. I'll fight you with this bottle of paint and win if you have a whip and you're trying to fight me in a closet. You're just sorry. It's physics, people. Like, do they not even understand basic shit like that? But then, sure enough, and then it's like yoink, and he's dead too, right? So just to recap, Dorne, it's essentially yoink, yoink, and like this, and it's like, yay, we won Dorne, yay. Yay! And it's like, yeah, we avenged Oberyn's death by killing his family. That's right. That was the plan. We'll show you House Martell. We'll show you how strong House Martell and Dorne is by killing House Martell. This plan is brilliant. It's so good. It's so smart. Oh, we're in charge now? Yeah, we're in charge. We're in charge of this land. Yeah. The end. Good. What a good story. Yeah. Like, this is the level of bad that this particular writing is irresponsibly bad. It's there. You know how you're supposed to blame stuff on, when somebody does something wrong, you're supposed to assume, it's easier to assume that they were doing something stupid rather than doing something malicious or out of malice. And I'm a firm believer of that. When people screw up, I usually try to think that they've done it either out of ignorance or stupidity, and not because they were intentionally trying to be a dick or trying to be malicious. I have a hard time doing that in this case, because this is so borderline. This is not borderline. This is so insanely poorly written and poorly thought out that even, I don't know, I think my 2-year-old son has come up with better plot lines than that. And it's like, okay, we get it. You want to tie up a ribbon around Dorne and just kind of leave it in this particular state so that you can come back and say, hey, we're Daenerys supporters, yay, or something like that. That's fine. But the manner in which he did it and the buildup all around it was just sloppy. Like third grade book report sloppy. Okay? Like, that's not even that. Under no circumstances would that pass for reasonable writing anywhere else but mainstream popular TV or movies, right? Where, don't even get me started on Jurassic World. I watched that last night. And my wife made me watch it, and I was so mad I had to get in my car and drive around. Just was not good. Because those people apparently have never seen a live animal, and they don't really understand how other living creatures behave. I don't know. I could turn that into a rant sometime if you guys ever want to hear me cry about something like that. But this scene here, this Dorne scene here, I actually feel slighted that the internet has not been more upset about it. That hasn't called if this is I'm calling this whole episode bullshit. And if there's one hill for me to die on and say, yeah, this is the point where Game of Thrones has become absolute irresponsible bullshit, it's going to be this point right here. It's going to be Dorne, because it's top to bottom filled with bad. It's filled with bad writing, poor concepts, poorly executed characters, poorly understood characters, and it's almost like they just wanted to make a statement and end it, as opposed to good storytelling. It's irresponsible, and it really did. This might have been the scene that finally broke me from Game of Thrones. Like, I might actually just stop watching it. Actually, I'm totally lying to you guys. I will still watch it because it's one of the few things my wife and I have in common TV-wise, and it gives us something to talk about. But I can't have, like, she saw me kind of slow speed come apart when this whole scene unraveled, because it just it is just so bad, so sloppy. And when I see people like on YouTube or whatever that are reviewing the episode and they're like, I like what they did with Dawn, I think it's gonna be grand, I think it's fantastic. Shut the fuck up, okay? Like, have some intellectual honesty, integrity. No. And if you do believe that, I don't know. Go back to reading bad things, I guess. Go watch like poor quality. That's this whole thing. The way it was set up, the way it was executed, is just absolutely garbage. It's inexcusable. It's inexcusable. The fact that somebody got paid to write this particular scene where it's like stab, stab, and we win. Like, somebody got paid money to do that. And that bothers me. They got paid money to do that, and they wrote a scene for Game of Thrones. You wrote a scene for two boys playing with their GI Joes in the first grade. That's what you wrote. You didn't write Game of Thrones. You did something really embarrassing, because it's like, okay, well, how did they get on the boat? How did the sand snakes get on the boat? Well, they kind of swam, Well, they were on the docks. They were on the docks. They watched the boat pull out. Well, they could have paddled real hard. They could have used the teleporter. They're the sand snakes. They're really cool. Again, this is the instance of Dan and Dave, the writers, needing to get to an endpoint and not knowing how to do basic logical storytelling to get you there. Okay? They couldn't get you. They couldn't do this very, very simple thing. Like, if we wanted to do the same thing, we could have easily done it. If you told us, okay, the end point is we want these three chicks standing over the dead bodies of the slain Martells, and be like, yay, we run Dorne now. You could have done that and given us the same amount of time and the same amount of actors. We could have done that and explained it. Like, anybody could have done that. Anybody. This was sloppy and careless and awful writing, and it's inexcusable. All right, let's move on. Because, yeah, like it's absolutely just horrifying. Let's just move on. All right, so once you get past Dorne, I need like a dwarf or something. Am I still on the? Okay, yeah, I'm still on here. Not seeing a whole lot of 50-50 elimination. Okay, let's go on to Marine, where you've got Varys and Tyrion. I'll use this half-painted kind of chibi miniature as Tyrion here, and they're just kind of walking around the city. They're like being spied on, and their exchange of, hey, we're just going to walk around the city, and no one's going to guard us, even though the whole city is supposed to be plunged into chaos and turmoil. You've got the Sons of the Harpy running around, murdering people out in the streets, and you have Tyrion, who was the recent survivor of a riot in King's Landing, walking around with no bodyguards, thinking he's incognito, a dwarf and a bald eunuch walking around Marine, where, let's just call it out, where there's these are light-skinned dudes, and other people in Dorne not so light-skinned. It doesn't matter if you're dressed like a merchant. You guys stick out like a sore thumb, right? That would be like, it's like when a couple of guys from the mainland put on Hawaiian shirts, and they go to Hawaii and they think, oh yeah, we can run around with the locals. We'll totally fit in, and you totally don't. Okay, that's what that looked like. That looked like the level of stupidity of some really, really naive tourists. And we're talking about Varys and Tyrion here, okay? Two of the most brilliant minds in all of Westeros. And we're supposed to believe that they have a Hawaiian shirt mentality. It's like, oh, it's casual Friday. We can walk around with their Hawaiian shirts. We'll look just like the Hawaiians. Like we're supposed to think that's what they're thinking. And again, so they walk around, they have a little exchange, yada yada, and at the end of the exchange, you see that their fleet is on fire. Oh yeah, the fleet's on fire. Okay, so again, here's another instance of Dan and Dave needing to get to an endpoint, to get to the point of the show to say, oh, somebody has burned their fleet. I'll use this just started. There's the fire of the fleet right there. So I can't believe I have all this stuff just in my sitting around to tell this story here. But anyway, that's all they needed to do. They needed to have these two characters walking around and realize that their city's in turmoil, and realize that their fleet is on fire, and they're not getting to Westeros any sooner than they had hoped for. That's it. You didn't have to build this really, really stupid premise of these two guys walking around thinking they're totally cool, when anybody with any common sense would have thought otherwise. Again, piss poor writing, horrible setup, no real understanding of how to put together a scene, and that makes the least bit of logical sense. But again, this is like this scene here, the writing in this scene, probably 8 or 9 if you compare it to that crap that was Dorn, right? All right, let's move on. Then you have a whole scene with and you get basically what is basically just a check-in scene with Jorah and Dario. And if your review video is calling him Dario, what the fuck is your problem, man? It's Dario. Like, I had to shut off some of these videos I was watching because they kept saying Dario. Or when people say Daenerys Targaryen, like, who the fuck is Daenerys Targaryen? I'm just turn off it. Like, come on. Come on. You want to talk about the characters at least? Like, are you here? Or maybe they're tone deaf or they're syllable deaf and they need to stick an extra syllable in. Have you not heard Daenerys for like the past 6 seasons on the show? And these people are people that read the books too. You'd think there'd be a little bit of reinforcement there. Daenerys, not Daenerys. Who the fuck is Daenerys? Seriously. Anyway, just disgruntled. But anyway, so you got these two, and he's like, "What's it like to be in the friend zone?" He's like, "Oh man, that's rough." And he looks at his wrist, and it's like, "Oh, I still have the grayscale." Yeah. And then he finds the ring that Dany left in the grass. Like she was surrounded by a Dothraki horde, and she's like, "Oh, I'll totally leave this chill ring right here, and hopefully the 2 or 5 people that are looking for me," because I'm going to say she might be thinking there might be 5 people looking for her as opposed to 2, are going to hit this exact coordinate. They're going to look at the ground at that particular moment, and they're going to see my ring. And it totally happened with Friend Zone over here, right? Jorah totally found it. And he's like, "Whoa, I totally found the ring." And that scene ends. Okay, cool, I guess. I mean, the point of that scene was to show that, oh yeah, they're hot on the trail and they're going the right direction. Okay, whatever, right? Then you get to Dany with some cool Dothraki scenes. People are talking about, do the carpet match drapes, yada yada yada. There's a lot of there's some attempts at comedy there. I think it's kind of cool that they're at least trying to do comedy there. But again, these guys can't put together a premise to save their lives. Then they have the whole scene with Cal Morrow, who is apparently somebody that did not know, never seen or heard of Daenerys Targaryen. Maybe he's heard of Daenerys Targaryen that some of these YouTubers have seen. Like maybe they know maybe he knows who Daenerys is, but has never met Dany. And she basically says, "Oh, you can't rape me because I'm the wife of a Cal, or the widow of a Cal." And he's like, "Oh yeah, you're the widow of a Cal." Well, first they do that whole like Monty Python thing, which was cool, but I don't know. It was cool, I suppose. Then it's like, "Hey, I can't rape me. You can't rape me." Okay, then you're gonna go to Vice Dothrak, and you're gonna live with the other widows as part of the whatever. Okay, so there's that scene. So another update on Dany. Okay, so that's the critical part that they had to get to. And I'm gonna give Dan and Dave a win here. I'm gonna give them a win because they're desperate for one. So they fucked up almost all the other scenes, but this one they got right. Like whenever it's a boring check-in scene, apparently they can get those right. If they need to show something or build drama or build something interesting, apparently they don't know how to build logical steps to get there. So, okay, we're almost done. We're almost in the clear, and then I can go to bed. Hey, what's up, Demon Chester J? I'm not painting tonight. I'm just I got to going to the convention tomorrow, so we're just talking shit about Game of Thrones. Anyway. So last scene is a scene everybody's talking about, and I don't know why the fuck they're talking about. I really don't. I don't know why. Like, yeah, okay, it was cool, but whoa, the intrigue. Really? That's the intriguing scene? That one? I don't know. And it's basically Melisandre here. She's in the room. This is like this is after here, we'll put her in a room here, just to make our simulation a little bit better here. Let's put her in a room. Here, a little more furniture, right? And she's looking in the mirror, and she takes off her clothes, and you're like, yay, boobies. And then she pulls off she takes the necklace off with the little glowing ruby on it, and essentially reveals that she goes from like this to like, to like unpainted, like this, right? She turns into like an old hag like that. And basically what it's revealing is that, that she's really possibly centuries old, and that she has some magic to protect that gives her that whole youthful type appearance. Okay, cool, right? And so people have been picking apart this scene. There's been a lot of real cool internet memes about it, like, oh, with Instagram filter, without Instagram filter, and all this other clever shit, right? That's fine. That's what, back to my early explanation, that's the kind of shit you're going to get when your show is popular in this sense popular. You've got the mainstream people around it. They're going to build clever memes around memorable scenes like that, right? But so she takes off her clothes. People are saying she's distraught over the fact that she was wrong about Stannis, and that now Jon Snow is dead, and she mentioned that she saw Jon Snow fighting in the fire. He was fighting at Winterfell. So that one of her visions as well. So now her whole faith is shaken, is what people are saying. Her faith is shaken. So she takes off her necklace to kind of give herself some breathing room. She needs a timeout, essentially, from being the Red Priestess, and goes to being an old person, and then climbs into bed and goes to sleep. Okay, questions on that, right? So, okay, forget the fact that she took off the necklace and becomes an old woman, goes to sleep. So she, if I'm getting this straight, she went over, she heard Ghost crying into the night. Right, here's Ghost. She heard Ghost crying into the night, and she decided to go over to the cabin, knock on the door, see Davos, have a conversation with Davos, check Jon Snow's pulse, essentially. Oh, he's, I thought she was going to come back with like the Princess Bride. He's just mostly dead. He's not all dead. Maybe they'll do that. I don't know. Or a lot of people are saying maybe he's worked into Ghost. Whatever. I really don't care. Whatever. It's whatever explanation they want to use, as long as it doesn't involve two sand snakes magically appearing on a boat that they didn't hop on. I'm okay with that. As long as it doesn't include, hounds that cross rivers and then disappear once fighting begins, I'm okay with that. Yeah, right? You want to do warging, you want to do resurrection spell, you want to do self-sacrifice. I don't care. I don't even understand why that's such a source of speculation. It doesn't really matter. The means by which the show decides to bring Jon back, not a big deal, guys. It really isn't. The big deal is when they're going to bring him back. In a sense, it does matter if there's a sacrifice involved, and I think that would be cool. Like if because that would be a little redemption for Melisandre, who's Melisandre, not Melisandre, like some people are saying. That's, again, shutting off your channel if you say Melisandre. I don't know, who the hell is that? Who the hell is Melisandre? Hangs out with Daenerys. I don't know who the fuck these people are. But anyway, so she to get this straight, she goes over. She hears Ghost crying. She sees. She comes over and she puts her hands on Jon's cheek. Oh, I saw him in the fire. Then she feels really bummed about it. She goes back into her room, which I don't understand. I don't understand. There's right? You have essentially these guys that are, you have Davos, and you have like loyal Night's Watch guys that are like, we're totally gonna die for our bro, man. And then you have and you got like the Jon Snow corpse right there, right? And they're basically gearing up for siege. They're gearing up for the damn siege, like this. They had to send Ed out for cookies and all that kind of stuff. They had a whole like knock joke with Alistair Thorne, like, oh, come back at night and you guys are good to go. And these guys are like, oh, I call bullshit on Alistair Thorne. But before that, or in between, or somewhere in that time frame, you have Melisandre, not Melisandre, Melisandre come by and be like, oh, he's dead, I'm super sad. And then she just fucks off. I don't understand. Like, oh, I'm super sad, this is bullshit. And she's gone. Right? And meanwhile, these guys are like, barricade the door, we're only letting it out. We're gonna get ready. She's just like, yeah, and then I'm gonna go take a nap. Really? You're gonna take a nap? Couple questions. If she's going to go take a nap. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think Melisandre takes a lot of naps. But if she's going to take a nap, and they had this other discussion, like, we'll be back at nightfall. Is she then taking a nap at nightfall? Or is it like, it could possibly be like 9 o'clock in the morning and she's like, fuck this, I'm turning into an old person and then I'm going to go to take a nap. Could be that. But it just seems kind of weird. It's like, here's your siege. Hey guys, I need to go take a nap and turn into an old person. So I'm going to go do that. If she did see some urgency about the situation, if she sensed the urgency, if she had any inkling of what these guys are talking about, she might go, hey, there's some real shit about to happen or go down here, and I got to prepare for it. Now, I'm hoping that I'm totally wrong and that this is her means of preparing for it. She's like, hey, I'm gonna recharge for a little bit, so let me go into ugly old lady mode for a while, and then let me come back and just be like Super Saiyan Melisandre, right? I could totally come back and, wow, I'm like Super Saiyan 2. Then she can come back and, and Davos is like, you should see what this woman can do with her vagina. She can stop those 40 Night's Watch out there. Because he did call it out. He's like, yeah, that could totally happen. And and also, that's the episode, except I left out the Arya scene, which was okay. Again, it's another check-in scene. Nothing really to talk about. Okay, she's blind, yada, yada. The wave comes by, beats her up a little bit with a bow staff, and she's like, oh, yeah, we're going to do it tomorrow. So there's like a whole karate montage about to happen with Arya. Whatever. Cool, right? At least we got to see Arya, which is she's a cool character. I like her story arc. And Dan and Dave haven't screwed that up yet. But overall, I would look at this episode and just call it a disaster. Kind of like this stream was a disaster. Because this is what happens, people. When I didn't get my guild ball captains and I got nothing to paint, this is what we're going to do. We're going to bitch about Game of Thrones. And actually, I do want to do a few more. I want to do a couple more of these. So thumbs up if you want me to do more. Thumbs down if you're like, fuck that guy. He just shat on my favorite show. Thumbs down, and I won't do any more of these. So, and granted, this was a super, super negative review of a show that, again, I told you at the very start that I actually like. But I do feel that the product quality is starting to go down. I do feel like the writing in this episode was particularly sloppy and particularly careless. And I don't like to see that happen to stuff that I like, right? That's what people don't understand about us nerds. When they go, oh, man babies, cry babies are upset because we did such and such to something that they liked. It's because it's a very callous way of dealing with people who, quite frankly, you would not be a fan of these things if some of us were not fans of these things. And it's a really callous and shitty way to treat people. and then come back and say, well, we're nerds too, and you guys need to respect us in this space and all this other crap. Well, hey, fuckers, like, we didn't talk shit about you initially. You guys are the ones that came in and said, well, you guys are weird. We need to change this way. Just like my little diagram at the very beginning. So part of being a fan of things too, like I was saying, is that you can and should call bullshit on the thing that you love when it's when you feel like its quality is suffering or its identity is changing fundamentally. I think that's okay to do. So, and that's all we're really doing here, and hopefully having a little fun. You know, please don't. I hope you weren't taking this too seriously. I'm talking a gang of shit on the show. And it's a good show. It's worth watching. I personally think it has gotten to a point where it's in that mainstream free fall now and has lost, for me anyways, it's lost a bunch of its charm. Am I going to keep watching it? Yes, I'm going to keep watching it, but mainly because my wife watches it, and this gives us another place to connect, some more common ground for the wife and myself. She doesn't really get into all this fantasy stuff, and you guys know that I'm big on this shit. So, when your wife that doesn't show any interest in this stuff shows some interest in some of this, you're going to partake. Like full disclosure here, if my wife said, hey, I think 40K is a great game and I can't wait to play that shit, I would be painting up a Space Marine army because I love my wife and I want to have some stuff in common with her, even if it's the shit that I don't like within the genre of things that I like. Okay, so with that, I think we are going to end our show here. I'm going to go ahead and just reload for comments. I didn't really see a lot of comments. I want to see if there's actually any thumbs down. Actually, oh, there's a thumbs up. Okay, but anyway, that's it for this video. Once again, thanks guys for putting up with me, and hopefully I can broadcast something from Kingdom Con, a little something, maybe not a battle report. I don't want to try streaming from there. I think it might be a nightmare. But I am bringing my camera setup just in case. Just in case. All right, so that's going to do it for this video. I want to thank everybody for watching. Have a good night, guys. And for those of you who will be at Kingdom Con this weekend, I will see you at Kingdom Con. All right, have a good one.